So we begin a little unit on inaugurals today. What does the word inaugural and inaugurate mean?
To begin.
Yes, it's a beginning. It's a commencement. It's a starting. And every presidential inaugural, whether it's of the United States or of Harvard University or a company, every inaugural is seen as a potential new beginning. So these inaugural addresses are important for various reasons. What kind of rhetoric do you imagine is appropriate at an inaugural? You've just been elected to office, or you've just been picked by some committee to head a large organization, and you now have the opportunity to say something to all of the stockholders, to all of the stakeholders, to anyone interested in your enterprise, to any and all citizens involved with whatever you are heading, whether it is government or business, or whether it's maybe just a science lab and you're asked to give a little talk to the people who have gathered there, because what kinds of things might you want to say? You've got this opportunity. What kind of tone might you want to set?
Well, I think it depends a lot on the context and like how the organization or country is doing.
Sure.
Because I think like in some cases it might make sense to have it be very like ceremonial, but in other cases it might be better to have it be deliberative.
So it could be ceremonial. It is a ceremony, and an inauguration certainly is a ceremony. Could be deliberative. Well, if you want to tackle a significant issue right away, maybe, but I'm not sure that's the best time to do it. What if there has been some kind of contest or division leading up to the fact that you have been selected? What then might you want to say to the assembled audience?
It should be like conciliatory, or I'm blanking on the word.
Yes,
But
it should reconcile.
yeah.
Yes. It should reconcile, presumably, the contending parties, because now you're the head. And there might be people there who didn't want you to be the head. They might have opposed you. They might have voted against you. That's certainly the case in presidential inaugurals. A president comes before the people, and in modern times, very often for various reasons having to do with either the Electoral College or having to do with a third-party candidate, the President of the United States has not, in fact, even gotten a majority of all the votes cast. You all don't remember the election in which William Jefferson Clinton defeated George Bush, but there was a third-party candidate. His name was Ross Perot. He actually got a substantial percentage of the popular vote. And my recollection is that Bill Clinton was elected with somewhere around 43% of the popular vote. That's not exactly a landslide. It's not exactly a huge popular mandate. So reconciliation, you want to try, do you want to set out an agenda in detail? Maybe not. Do you want to set a tone? Yes, you do want to set a tone. We're going to see that particularly in FDR's speech. Let's say there has been a great deal of trouble in the organization, nation, or company that you are now leading. In other words, it has had to face hard times. Those hard times might not have come from the people who are actually working in the organization, but they have affected the organization or the country as a whole. That's certainly the case in Franklin Delano Roosevelt's first inaugural address. What might you want to do in facing the fact that there has been great difficulty amongst all your constituents or employees? Everybody's been suffering, or at least a great many of them have been. What attitude do you think you might want to take? What might you want to do for people who've been suffering, and the cause may be something beyond the power of those individuals to do much about, but they're hurting?
I think seek to find empathy with them.
All right, some empathy, some kind of sympathy, some empathy. What else?
I guess show how you're going to try to end that.
Yes, you might want to say something, maybe not in detail, but you had better indicate you're going to fight to change things. You're going to try to address what has been causing such suffering. That's absolutely right. Wayne Fields, Fields, who teaches at Washington University in St. Louis, is a specialist on presidential rhetoric, and he's written a very good book on it. And he has an entire part or chapter devoted to inaugurals. But one of the points that Professor Fields makes in his book on presidential rhetoric is that when you are president, you are speaking for the whole nation. Unless you're at some specific party rally, which occasionally a president will do. All presidents will do that. They'll go somewhere and they'll campaign for members of their own party. That's their right. And they try to support their party in doing it. But in making statements otherwise, they are speaking for the entire country. They are the head, they're the executive, the commander-in-chief, whatever various title you want to use for that individual. And they have the responsibility of representing the entire country. Not just one part of it, not just a partisan faction of it, not just one political party. So Field stresses that someone in that position is speaking for everyone. Now, this is true in any organization as well. You won't last very long in an organization if rhetorically every time you get up, you're just speaking to the people who support you and like you. You will create disaffection. You will create perhaps hostility amongst others. So being a leader in that position means to some degree overcoming your own instincts for partisanship and exercising some degree of empathy, or some degree that you are articulating a totality for the entire organization or country. Sounds easy? It's not easy. It's not easy. Don't forget, you may have just been through a hard-fought campaign, or dirty office politics, or people calling you names, or slurring you. And what are you going to do now? Well, now you've won. You have to change the tone to a significant degree. So what kinds of artistic persuasion might you want to use here? Think you might want to use some logos? Yes. Pathos? Feeling? Yes. Ethos? Yes, you better. I think all three. If you don't present yourself as an individual of integrity the first time you step out as a leader. So for example, in the United States, a presidential inaugural address occurs when?
Late January, the 20th or 21st?
Yes, it used to occur in March. Because the country was so big, transportation took so long, that inaugurals used to occur in March. But now they occur, I think it's on a designated day in January, which falls somewhere around January 20th or so. Now, more closely, how long after being sworn in and officially becoming president is an inaugural address given? What is that articulate nod? Sure you do. Stop and think. Joel? Yes, it's not only the same day, it's right away. Yes, you take the oath of office, that's it. Maybe someone says something, and then you get up and you deliver the address. It's the very first thing you do as president officially, is aside from wave to the crowd or look good for a photograph or turn to your friends and family, shake the hand of the person from the Supreme Court who swore you in, usually the Chief Justice, and then the next thing you do is give this address. It's the very next thing. It's the first thing you do as president. What was the situation for Franklin Delano Roosevelt's first inaugural address? What would be a very brief thumbnail sketch of the condition of the country in March 1933? Jake? Not good. Okay, fill out that thumbnail. That's a sliver. That's a little clipping off the nail. Fill that out a little.
They were in the midst of the Great Depression.
All right, Great Depression. Now, we just went through a great recession. Is a recession as bad as a depression?
No.
No, a depression's worse. Any idea what unemployment was in the United States at about this time?
25%?
About 25%. Yeah. That means 1 out of every 4 people had no work, and there was chronic unemployment. And that's a rough figure. It may have been higher. What else? Could people fall back on unemployment insurance? Nope, didn't exist. How about Social Security? Nope, didn't exist. You don't have a job? You don't have Social Security? You don't have unemployment insurance? What do you do? What do you do? Millions of people face this.
now I'm confused at the question. Is it what does FDR do? Or
No, what do you do? You're out of work.
Yeah. You just have to survive. And
You have to survive. How do you
do your
survive?
best. You
Sell things you have, get out of your house, move someplace that's cheaper, get out on the road, become a migrant worker. I invite all of you to see a very great movie and to read a very good book called The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, which is about a family originally in Oklahoma that was farming. And they saw their farm and their way of life there destroyed, physically destroyed. And then as a family, they attempt to do what many families from that area did, which is move west to California, where there was at least a promise of being able to work in the agricultural industry as someone picking in the field. It's a tough go. It's a wonderful film about that time in American history, and it's a wonderful book, and it portrays very clearly the callousness, the potential cruelty, the occasional kindness, and the great difficulty of individuals who basically, many of whom found themselves hungry and out on the street and starving. So, very briefly, what is the background to this period of the Great Depression? What do we sometimes call the decade of the 1920s? The Roaring Twenties. All right, Joel, that's what we call it. Why do we call it that? Why do we call it the Roaring Twenties?
Because the economy was booming and everyone was doing really
The
well.
economy was doing quite well. Where was the stock market?
It was sky high.
Up. That's right. When did the stock market all of a sudden take a bad tumble?
29?
Yes, 1929. It takes a while for that to set in. So this is 1933. This is almost 4 years later. But during that period of time, the Great Depression really begins to set in. Now, one of the reasons the Roaring Twenties occurred is because you could buy stocks by borrowing very little money to buy it. So let's say you wanted to buy stocks worth $100. You could buy them on what is called margin. Okay? Now at that time, how much money would you have to put up to buy $100 worth of stocks? $10. Yeah, $10. Okay, the stock's worth $100, you put up $10, you now own the stock, having put down $10. 3 months later, the stock's at $50. Where are you? You lost a lot of money, that's exactly right. You lost a lot. Does anybody want to buy that stock? Maybe not. You know what the expression that was used during the recent recession was? To say that a house is underwater? You know what that expression means? Doesn't mean it's flooded. What does that expression mean economically? It's an image. It's a good image.
What's owed on the house is worth more than what the house is actually worth.
That's right. The actual market value of the property. And it was used about endowments here at Harvard, too. They'd been overspent, some of them. So it said certain funds were underwater, meaning what was owed or what you were obligated to was actually going to be greater than the market value, because the market value had come down. And most of what was going on in the Great Recession recently, and there was plenty of blame for it, was that mortgages were written in a way that was irresponsible. Income verification was often not checked. People were given adjustable rate mortgages without any sense of what would happen if they did lose their job. Because in an adjustable rate mortgage, generally the rate goes up after a period of years. But you say, you can own this wonderful house for only $1,200 a month. And then down in fine print, after 3 years, you'll pay $2,800 a month. And there was, it's called predatory lending, which was particularly common in minority areas. So people were told that they could and in fact should own a house or a property, and then it got worse because many of these mortgages were bundled together into larger securities. They were tied up into a big bundle and they were sold on the open market, and for some reason they were given very high credit ratings, like AAA. Well, when the crisis came and people started losing their jobs and couldn't pay their mortgages, not only did they lose their house, some people took their house keys and put it on the kitchen table and walked away. Why would that be a smart move? If your house is underwater, why is it a smart move to say, okay, goodbye? You lost your job, you can't pay the mortgage anymore. Why try? You owe more than the house is worth. If you sell it, you're still going to owe. You see all these pictures of streets in the United States with for sale sign after for sale sign, particularly in certain states. I think it was Nevada that was hard hit. Florida, California, a number of states, very hard hit. You got a street with 50 houses on it and 33 of them are for sale. What kind of market's that? So it will hurt your credit rating. You're basically saying, I'm walking away from this mortgage. But you're walking away from it. You're not even going to try to pay it. You're going to move on and try to get something where you can actually afford to live any longer. Instead of trying to pay for a house, the value of which is far below what you owe on it. These are very harsh economic realities, and in the Great Depression they were even more harsh because there's no safety net. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is elected, and he tries to rally the nation. So let's take a look at this address. If you have In Our Own Words, it begins on page 100. So pull that out. If you don't have it with you, sit next to someone who does. Roosevelt came from a patrician family. What does the word patrician mean? Yes, not necessarily aristocratic. We don't have aristocrats in this country, but we have Hollywood and we have other things like that. But yes, it means wealthy, established, well-to-do, and very often not new wealth either, but established wealth. Not the nouveau riche. I remember as one woman once said in Texas, oh, they're not really rich, they just spend a lot of money. Meaning they're not old money, they're not established. So FDR was a patrician. He came from a very well-established family, related, of course, to Theodore Roosevelt, who'd been president, very well-to-do. He became president, and it was later said that he also, to some degree, became, the phrase was used, a traitor to his class, meaning he developed systems of legislation and government that were aimed explicitly to help the poor and were aimed to, as it was once said at the Harvard commencement of 1936, in the Tercentenary Theater, when Harvard was how old in 1936? 300 years. And that day it poured and poured and poured. And as one person said, true story, I have it from someone who actually heard it, now passed away. The story was, well, it's a good day for this celebration because Harvard really knows how to soak the rich. Ooh, yes. Well, you want as much money as you can get for good purposes. Regard the gift very recently by former Mayor Bloomberg. Everyone know about that gift? Everyone interested in financial aid and higher education should at least know about this gift. Bloomberg gave $1.8 billion to Johns Hopkins University in a single gift. $1.8 billion. Do you know what he established this gift for? Undergraduate financial aid, so that individuals of lower and middle income could be on a level playing field and would not have to take out any loans in order to attend Johns Hopkins. Interesting. So Roosevelt is now being inaugurated after the Roaring '20s. The stock market had failed, many tens of millions of people suffering, many millions out of work, and politically a number of very gifted and intelligent people wondering whether democracy would survive.